we have got an amazing lady for you. This woman I met around this time last year, and we were both in a very similar situation, And what occurred for us was COVID. COVID changed us both. And it changed us in ways that we couldn't have foreseen, despite the astrology. And now we are both in very, very different positions of gratitude, positions that we get to be who we want to be and gift what we really love to other people. And so let me introduce you to my dear friend and beautiful, gorgeous mumpreneur, Lynda Phoenix. Please light up the chat with loads and loads of claps and smiles and hearts. And there she is!
Hi!
Hello, beautiful. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you doing?
I'm so good. I had smile ache yesterday from smiling all day because it was just so cool, like basically talking to my mates while there's some other mates around.
I can see your energy. It's just like, amazing. You're just in your right zone.
I know Isabel messaged me last night and she said, I love Clubhouse because it's just like radio. And I was like, I'm such a TV girl.
Yeah, you are. You are. That's you coming alive and we can see you. So amazing.
Hello, Lynda. Oh my gosh, you beautiful divine feminine. Thank you for starting us off on Tuesday and for giving us this beautiful feminine energy. Yesterday we started with some boys, with some big boys. And today we're like coming in with the delicious feminines and you're looking fabulous.
Thank you.
So we are wounds to wisdom to wealth. What we're looking at here and what we discovered yesterday and want to bring further into kind of the heart today is we all have these wounds. We all have things that are hard to deal with or that have been difficult in our lives. And each story is so unique and so individual. But the kind of premise is the same, that when we literally face our fears, when we face those wounds, and it's not always easy, we find an alchemy that actually shifts us into the trajectory that is essentially like our destined wisdom and wealth. And I have watched this with you. I mean, I have literally, like Big Brother, watched this with you. And so for our audience, tell everybody who you are and what you do right now to kind of give us this idea of, if we took a snapshot today, who is Lynda Phoenix?
Okay, so right now I run a craft business for children, but it's to help them with their mindfulness, to help them with their awareness, and to help them really feel grounded and to have that intuition, have that feeling, something that, you know, is so needed, children's mental health over the last 12 months. And that's exactly, you know, like you're saying, Mary Kate, how COVID was the thing that was the real sort of change. I mean, interestingly enough, I've always had like a high level of emotional intelligence. I always look at how people feel, even, you know, in my history as a marketeer, it was always on a very kind of emotional level that I marketed. And it was just something that happened as the pandemic happened, and I had a very strong feeling I needed to step up. And I was on a completely different path while that happened, as you know. So right now, the business is a successful subscription business. We're 12 months old now. I say we because I have a little helper who's 5. My co-founder, Fifi, who tests out all the craft.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she does. She still loves it. That was our homeschooling, was, you know, counting craft items into, you know, bags and everything. But it's really gone into a big scale now. You know, I've helped all the service children. work with the Royal Navy, work with children's charities, work with a children's charity where children have sort of tumours and they don't know when those tumours are going to really affect their brain. So it's like a ticking time bomb, and it's helping them understand why in some ways their sort of bodies have failed them and how they can live in the present rather than thinking about this ticking time bomb. It's really powerful stuff, you know, working with these charities I never thought that I'd be reaching. You know, obviously at the beginning it was reaching, you know, children that were feeling isolated, having difficulties at home with, you know, being cut off from their friends, all the stuff that we know now affected children. But now it's kind of moved into, you know, a sort of deeper layer now where I'm going in and I'm helping children with a whole heap of, you know, different issues. And I think the thing is that mindfulness really should be happening, you know, when we're younger. It shouldn't take, you know, it took me 30-40 years to really understand and connect, you know, with myself. You know, you spend your whole life being busy and everything, and that's the gift and that I want to give out there. I really want to help children, because if you help them now, they'll be really resilient. They'll be able to, you know, deal with whatever life throws at them. You know, when I say deal with it, they're not all going to just be happy souls for the rest of their life, but it's how you deal with it, you know. So that's where I'm at now.
I mean, I just really want to kind of presence that to everyone, that what Lynda's saying is her business is 12 months old. It's actually, let's be honest, it's not even 12 months old yet.
No, it isn't.
It's really not.
Yeah, it was probably April the 11th that I saw when I set up the Facebook page for the business, and that was April the 11th.
Yeah. So it's coming up to its anniversary, and you have, through, and we're going to go into this story, kind of through following your intuition and saying no to the intuition a few times, you know, kind of moved through this calling almost that was so different to what you were doing. And it opened up areas for so many organizations, children, parents, you know, like you said, the Navy, children with tumours, you know, that literally don't understand if there is a future or how to deal with that. And your product, your service created some form of groundedness for them.
Yes.
And that was, I mean, I feel it, and I kind of felt it at the time. I remember talking to you and the rest of the girls around it, like, this is a pretty amazing idea. Why has nobody ever thought of it before? Oh, because it's Lynda's destiny.
Well, this was the interesting thing, is that I felt really that I needed that for my daughter. And I saw my daughter, you know, get sort of dragged out of preschool, and it was her last year at preschool. So there was a high chance at that point, we didn't know that they'd go back to preschool or school for a few weeks. But it was taking her out, and I was just like, this is it. She's an only child. We're at home, you know, I'm a solo mum, and I was just like, this is it, just me and her. And, you know, it was the first stage of lockdown was very strange. It had that really weird, eerie feeling. It was a lot different as we moved on, because we kind of got a bit more used to it. But at the beginning, it was like...
Let's just drop in the chat now. Who remembers this time last year when we literally went into lockdown and everyone was like, whoa. It was like the first time we'd ever, it was a bit alien. Like you said, it was like, shit, are the army going to come in? You know, what's going on? We have no idea.
It was bizarre. And I remember walking down the street with my daughter, and she had, we saw a mum from her preschool with her daughter in a pushchair, and she went up to us, and my daughter Fifi ran up to say hello to her friends, as you would, age 4, preschool, and the mum literally legged it up the road pushing the pushchair, and we just were like stood there. And it was that sort of, I get why she did it, and you know, we had to sort of park the children, but that was when my heart just went, do you know what, we can't expose our children to this without supporting them. They're going to be exposed to this. We can't magic this away from them, but how can we support them? And maybe this is a wake-up call now. Like, parents, instead of fretting about, you know, their children's phonics and reading, yes, those things are important, and I see all the initiatives to catch up with learning as children go back to school, but actually it's their state of mind, their mental health, and how what the world can be so fragile. They've experienced that, you know, through bereavement, through loss, having their friends taken away from them, having parents that maybe can't cope mentally as well.
Yeah. I mean, as a solo mum myself, and a bit, you know, in exactly the same situation as you, but two daughters, and you know, at home and building a business, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to cope. And so many of us were in that situation. So without kind of, well, we're going to go there. We're going to go there. You know, you're saying, oh, I run a craft business. It's not exactly a craft business. It actually was something that, like you said, it was like this, I need this, you know, necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, you created this beautiful box of mindful crafting for children with
Yes.
everything they needed in it. So including like the coloring pencils, the glue, the stickers,
Yeah.
you know, trails for like going out on walks and checking like what bugs you could see and things like that. But what was the most amazing thing and genius idea is it was put into a box that was easily posted through the letterbox.
Yeah. Yeah, from a good social distance.
Lovely.
Pops
I
through,
mean,
yeah.
light up the chat. Light up the chat. It's like, oh, aren't amazing, brilliant ideas so okay, simple.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's very simple. And even the questions that the point of conversation between the parent and the child were put in there. So the
Yeah.
parent didn't even have to worry about how to get their child to open up. It was all linked in with art therapy. And
Yes.
it helped the parent and the child connection, or the care and the child connection, you know. And sometimes the questions weren't targeted at the child, it was targeted at the puppet, because they're going to open up more because it's a third party. So all
Yeah.
things like that were kind of woven into it. And yeah, it did come complete. I didn't have to scrabble around trying to find a glue stick, which is always annoying, isn't it? You know, where's the glue
Well,
stick?
I subscribe. I was like, and so kind of let's go back before we kind of look at, you know, the product, the service, because I know everybody in here is going to want to go and check this out, because if you don't have children yourself, you will definitely know people that would absolutely love this service. And yes, Robin, for our elderly too. Oh my gosh, you need to get in touch with Lynda. So take us back, because before COVID hit, this is not what you were doing, love.
No,
What
so
were you up to?
basically, I was a marketeer, and I was a director of marketing for a telcom, and it was a startup within the telcom. It was very exciting still, but it was a 12-month fixed-term contract, and it was very interesting because at the end of the 12 months, they actually made everybody redundant, and so you know, there I was, gratefully with a redundancy payout, and going, right now, you know, I really want to focus on back to setting up myself as a marketing consultant. Now, if I rewound 3 years prior to that, I tried to do the same thing, but it wasn't my time then. It really wasn't my time. I set up the business as a marketing consultant and mentor. My dad died, my relationship ended, and it felt like the doors were closing around me. You know, I had a very young daughter, and I was trying to work around her. I felt burnt out, and it felt like I was pushing against something. I was knocking at the wrong door at the wrong time. It's not to say that that wasn't a right path for me eventually, but that was wrong. And I even remember, like, you know, I got a new MacBook, and I you know, took my daughter to some soft play and thought I could be one of those mums that could open up their laptop and do a bit of tap tap while she was playing. And I just knocked a whole latte over the whole laptop screen, and couldn't get the money back because it was water damage. And it was just stuff like this was happening on a daily basis. It was crazy. And it was almost like the universe was screaming at me, no, this isn't your time. Stop. And so then fast forward 3 years, then I had my redundancy pay. I thought, right, it's now time to do what I did before. I'm going to set up as a marketing consultant. Then COVID hit. And then that was a real wound for me, because it was like, it's all happening again. It's all happening. You know, why me? Why me? Why can't I just have a time where I invest in myself, invest in my business, and help other small business owners with their marketing? Why is it not happening? And I was so frustrated and so upset. And I, you know, invested some money into a masterclass. That's where I met you, and we connected. it was just really, you know, I got into a really bad headspace with it. It was just like almost victimized, like, oh, it's here we go again. Now what's going to happen, you know? And then
Which we spoke about yesterday. We talked about this wound comes back, you know, and if we're not conscious of it, what happens is we fall and we become, like you said, we become a victim to it again. But actually there's a way when you become aware of it, like, oh, it's happened before, it's almost coming to prepare you for a level up. But at the time last year, we had no idea that's what was coming.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It does prepare you for a level up, because in contrast to how I felt with the marketing consultancy stuff when we met, it felt like that hard push again. Yeah, COVID was one thing, but it was also just like everything felt a little bit hard. You know, even
Yeah.
sometimes when I was writing content, it didn't come from a real sort of place of sort of joy, or there
That
wasn't that
natural
light.
feminine flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't. It was came from a practical side of my brain. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. And then when you know, me and my daughter started, you know, playing around with these activities to start the mindful craft box. Literally, I was in a state of flow from day one. And for the last 12 months, I've been in a state of flow. Hours can go past and I won't even know that hours have gone past, apart from the fact that I have to go and pick my daughter up from school at a certain time or something like that. But, you know, I'm literally like that. And every morning I sit there and for literally 10-15 minutes after I've dropped her off to school, I sit there and I sit very quietly. And then I just say in my head, just keep the doors open. If I'm on the right path. And that's all I say every morning. I just have 10 minutes, just listen to the birds in the garden. You know, it's not a big deep meditation. I'm not all, you know, like doing an hour's worth of yoga and connecting myself, because I don't have the time, and I'd love to, I really would, but that's how I connect in the morning. And if it feels right, doors open. It's amazing. It never felt like that with the marketing consultancy.
Yeah.
Ironically, now the marketing consulting is coming back into it in a way where I'm now inspiring other women by showing a live startup. And it's a funny thing. It's coming in at the moment it should.
I love that. Oh my God, this makes my heart sing. You know, light up the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, are you feeling that? This is something I see time and time and time again. And you are an exact beautiful example of this, that actually when we follow the flow, follow the intuition, go in the way that we're being guided. And by the way that we are being guided is not always the way we think. It sometimes looks like this is not a possibility, but actually when you start moving in that direction, it opens doors that literally you were talking about. I was knocking and nothing was opening. And now the doors are opening and they're coming and asking you, because you've demonstrated what it is that you do rather than telling them what you do. You are it, you're being it. It's so beautiful. And, you know, massive accolade to you. So help us out here. Let's go and have a look at that wound. Why not? You know, we're here for it. So, you know, we've got the immediate wound, like you're saying, you know, COVID hit and we're all, you know, we're all wounded in a way by that one way or another. But it gave you a gift through, I need this for me. But before even that occurred, you know, there was this Lynda who existed in a very, very different world, a very kind of DJ kind of world,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said to me, it was like, I had all of this and I was a bit like, who am I to take a craft business online when I'm a bloody DJ and a marketing person? And what did that bring up in you when you were like starting to become visible in what it was that you were in flow with?
Yeah, I mean, I still get a little bit confused now with you know, but I'm still proud and I own it. Whereas before I was like, oh gosh, what's the you know, DJ community gonna think about me? Because I'm a house DJ and on a slightly more underground level. So, you know, it's a real community.
Tell them who you really are. Bring it out into the light, Lynda.
Yeah, and so but this is the interesting thing is that when I actually launched the business, and we launched in a very soft way, it was like, okay, you know, sent a few craft boxes out here and there, and then a few, you know, parents wanted to send some to other people, so I thought, I'll set up the Shopify, let's make it real now. And then I, you know, decided to put the link out and put a little message on my personal Facebook, where I've got a huge amount of the music industry on, and all my first customers were from the music industry, you know, all DJs, all people that work for record labels, and they were all parents. We're all parents. It doesn't make any difference. We were all in the same situation. You know, we were all worried about, you know, what our children were getting exposed to at the time with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were worried about the lack of time that we had to kind of nurture them, because we had so much going on and everything. And it was the music industry that actually supported the business straight away, because it was my personal network. And so that was interesting, and they've been really supportive, you know, all the way through. Every time that I've had a, you know, a major press story, or, you know, when Vanessa Feltz invited me onto her show, you know, we've had all these things going on, and it was, everyone's so proud, and you get that real DJ banter. Yeah, locked in, Lynda, locked into the show. It's all like I'm on like pirate radio, but it's like I'm on Vanessa Feltz talking about craft, and it's really great, you know.
Because really, when you say you were underground, tell our audience, you know, what were you doing and who were you, really?
Yeah, so my career as a DJ actually started when I was 16, and I used to make mixtapes for people when I was at sixth form college, and they were so popular that I bought decks, and within 2 years I was playing at Ministry of Sound. The doors opened quick, you know. I was 18 and I was playing at Ministry, and then I toured the world. I was a resident for Defected Records. I've literally, you know, played in all sorts of bizarre places. You know, I've played in Poland in a ex-city toilet that goes downstairs, where it used to be an old university in the wartime, like a secret university. Played in some bizarre places, and it's amazing. I'm so grateful for my DJing career. And, you know, I was a bit shy in some ways when the craft business was doing well. I was thinking, oh my God, you know, this is really strange. I've got so many faces.
And so mum and craft.
Yeah, like mum,
you know,
DJ, you know, this sort of ministry, a sort of, you know, marketing sort of thing that's going on in the background. And, you know, but I just stuck with what felt right. And then was proud and owned it. And people accept you for who you are, and they're proud. People want to actually support you. People want to cheerlead you. They don't want to go, oh, that's not very cool. Do you know what? Lynda used to play at this club and that club. Now look at her with googly eyes, you know, like they're not googly eyes and stickers and Pritt sticks and stuff, you know, because they're very proud, because they feel in some level that they know you, because they followed you as a DJ, and then they can see you, you know, being entrepreneurial. And this last 12 months, people do want to support you, because it's a survive or thrive situation. I want to thrive, you know, and people would support that.
I mean, I love it. And again, you know, this highlights the wounds to wisdom to wealth. It's like when you followed the mixtape, you know, and you're like, I'm just making mixtape. The doors of Ministry of Sound opened, which then opened doors everywhere else. And who would have known really later that when you were sat as the pandemic hit, as a solo parent with your little girl not able to go back to nursery, that you were like, I need to create something for her so that she's entertained, so that we can have an educational conversation and I can understand her mental health, so that she's not growing up without that education and without that socialization, because there literally was just you two.
Yeah.
And from that, creating this beautiful craft box, this subscription, which was a really, really important part of it as well. And to say, you know, I know other mums will love this. And literally the music industry was like, your old home. And they were saying, bring it in here. We are just like you.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So tell us about how you started to create this box then, because you mentioned art therapy. Yes. And you mentioned that there was, you know, the children could create these things on their own, but there was a dialogue with the parent or the caregiver.
Yes.
So how did that come about for you?
Well, it was actually because if I directed questions at my daughter, if I saw her behaviour was a bit strange first couple of weeks of lockdown, or she was becoming clingy, children don't answer directly to, well, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Tell us, because it's a little bit more complex. When they're really young, you're always trying to second guess, oh, it's because they're tired,
Yeah.
they
It's
need
always
that.
because they're
Always,
tired.
yeah. And my mum and my daughter's always rolling her eyes. It's not because I'm tired, it's because I really want to roll around the floor, and
Yeah.
it's like,
No,
okay.
mummy, it's because you're tired.
Yes, I'm tired. And that's the thing. I realized that, she opened up when there was something else we were focusing on. And fun if I actually have come from an art background. I studied fine art up to degree level. Yeah.
Another one.
Another one. And then I ended up getting very focused on the music industry, and I sort of went down the music path. But art was everything, for me up until degree level, and it was just totally naturally to immerse myself back in that. So we were doing so much art and craft anyway, and I was asking her questions. How would that character feel? If we were drawing a picture, that had people on it. How something sounds, and if we close our eyes, how would that sound? Like the wind chime. I know your daughter's made the wind chime, and
Yeah.
and it's just literally getting them to feel what's going on right now, because worry, depression, stress all comes from worrying about something that might never happen, or enumerating about the past. And
Mhm.
children at a very early age naturally live in the moment. It's us that kind of batter that out of them, like, oh, well, you've got ballet next Saturday, make sure you've got your uniform ready. And they start thinking out of the time that they're living in. And it's
Mhm.
strengthening for the really younger children what was happening right now. And the more grounded I got my daughter, the more happier and more settled she was, and the more that I actually found out what was kind of going on. And that's how it basically started. So I started with some very simple art therapy techniques, which was based around simple meditation and, looking for small, great things around you. So that nature trail that you said, looking for the bugs, was actually not just walking on their daily walk, because suddenly
Yeah.
that little bit of exercise that we did in lockdown was precious.
Yeah.
That one little thing. Whereas, before lockdown, we would just walk, rush, and we wouldn't really focus on getting from A to B. And that one little sacred bit of exercise suddenly became a very valuable commodity, really, to go out and
Mhm.
see things, and looking for the small, great things around them. They're not going to miss what's in around them. They're going to feel more grounded. So that's where it all came from. And then it felt natural. I never had to think. Every month that I create new ideas, it flows completely. I get excited about releasing the box. I never go, oh God, it's that time again, I better come up with 4 activities for the children. It's just totally natural, completely natural. It's almost hard to explain in a way where it comes from. It's just natural flow.
It's gorgeous because it's natural, because, and I want kind of everyone to see this, is your natural ability as a person was the art, then the music, then the marketing, then being a mummy. And
Yeah.
actually, from a spiritual astrology point of view, of course, there's almost like this is this was always Lynda's idea. This was always going to be Lynda's creation, because you get to literally mix all of that into a beautiful tapestry, which then creates this flow. And you've mentioned it so many times that this is the flow of, I don't get tired. I have energy for this. This is literally living through me. And as it lives through me, it actually gives birth to the marketing that I wanted to create in my logical mind the whole time.
Yeah,
But it's now being created through me following my flow.
absolutely.
And I love that, because this is what I teach people through their astrology. So I love to see that live in you. But we also want to have a look at how you resisted it massively in the beginning. Come on.
Yeah, I did, absolutely. And if anything, it was like a bit of grief for the route that I was on. And
Mm.
I because it was my second attempt as well with the marketing consultancy. So for when the craft box business suddenly was just lighting up, and 3 months later we were national press, and it was amazing, an amazing journey. But there was that feeling of, oh, well, what about what I was meant to do? And
Yeah.
I never realized, oh, how have I ended up with a craft box business? And it wasn't that I suddenly was like, oh god, what have I got here? It was more just what I was having to actually close that door on.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of grief, because you've invested so much thought, time, money, everything into it. And I felt, a little bit like, oh, having to get over the here we go again. There's always some big dramatic thing that stops me starting my own business. But actually, this little business that was growing was going, hello, actually, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, can I have a bit more of your attention? And then I just, thought, right, let's just go for it. And it just, I went in the flow. And I did pause things with the marketing consultancy, but I kept it going enough to still, speak to my community. And if there was little nuggets of information about startup mentality, that's what I was putting out there. I was like, right, nothing has to be perfect, it has to feel right. Like, don't worry about over planning everything, because we're living in a world that is a little bit chaotic. Well, it's very chaotic right now. Go with, get that startup mentality. It doesn't matter, there's no right or wrong. Does it feel wrong? Right, move, pivot, go on, move on. And that was what I was kind of communicating, but without any call to action. So the marketing consultancy community, the community I built up was just getting nuggets of information from startup, with no like, click here to have a consultation with me. I'd pause that. But ironically, now that's starting up naturally in its own way. Yeah.
And we've got so many ladies in this audience, and we'll be watching this on replay, that are in a similar situation, that want to create something or are in the middle of creating something. And it is hard for them, because they're not actually able to, like you said, keep creating the content and all of that stuff. And yet there might be something on the other side. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. And maybe open up, a possible kind of subconscious wound, possibly for you and possibly for our audience, that, there's a status that comes with Ministry of Sound, and there's a status that comes with, a marketing consultant in a large telecoms business, multi-million-dollar businesses. Then there's not so status that comes with a solo mum with a craft box. And there's an energy in us sometimes that doesn't always want to accept what's there in front of us, because it might not feel the same as the status, the energy, the familiarity that we used to have in a place that we were before. And actually, it's that growth, like you said, it's that humility, a bit like, hi everyone, I run a craft box now. And actually, exactly. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And when you kind of bring the truth of it, and nobody else thinks that it's a big deal, but we think it's a big deal. And I remember having that
barrier. It's a complete barrier. Yeah,
it is a barrier. And drop in the chat now, please, if you're here, share with us, have you ever had that experience, that Lynda experience, going from one type of business to another type of business, and the bridge being a bit like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to bridge this in myself. And yet that was the thing to follow. And that's like, there was a lot of personal growth in that for you, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was, because I mean, I think I remember even the very early stages of, being in the mastermind, I struggled a bit with even putting my name, Lynda Phoenix, as the marketing consultancy. I wanted to call it a different name, because I wasn't quite sure how to bridge the gap between being a DJ and a consultant. And then also, I didn't want my sort of marketing career background, working for large companies like Samsung and telcos. I didn't want to fail as a marketing consultant, and that to have any effect on what I built up as a marketeer that would go into companies and work either on a contract or full-time basis. So I had two levels of like weirdness. I was like, oh, okay, if I fail, what's going to happen here? Or what's people going to think of me from the music industry? It's all a bit strange. And then the craft box, throw that one in. And I was like, okay.
So when, and like Joel's saying yes 3 times now, Kaylee's saying absolutely get it, Robin running a big corporate company and felt miserable, and now she's doing spiritual work. You know, when we start to follow these hunches, when we start to follow these intuitions, what tends to occur, and you've demonstrated it beautifully, and I love you, Lynda, because there's not just one or two, there's like quite a few. You know, you've demonstrated that actually there's something that occurs inside of us that's like, I have to grow past it. And Amy, who was on yesterday, she was saying the same thing. It's like new level, new devil, you know, every time. But sometimes you don't know you're going to a new level. Sometimes you don't know it. It's naturally kind of taking you with the flow. And I'd love to invite you now to share with us really what's occurred in the last 12 months. You know, the media exposure that you've received, the contracts that you've received. You know, go back into that. I know you started to share with us a little bit at the beginning, but really, who has been impacted positively by this one nugget of idea that you received through that wound of, I'm left with my child on my own, and oh shit. And from that moment, who did you impact?
So that's the thing. From that moment, it's, you're just there with a situation, and I had to help her. And then from that point of helping her, there's so many of hers out there. You know, everyone's got, you know, young sons, daughters, children that maybe, you know, nieces, nephews that you're not seeing, that's also impacting, you know, because I get a lot of grandparents that send boxes to their grandchildren because they've had such distance. There's so many, you know, families that have been divided. It's not just that parent leaning over going, how are you feeling? How are you doing today? Let's do a meditation together. It's that grandparent hasn't seen their grandchild for 12 months. You know, it's a very strange world where we're so disconnected, but we're screaming out for connection. And that's the thing that I wanted the activities to bring. It was connectivity first and foremost, so that there was an understanding and support from the parent, caregiver, or the person who, you know, the grandparent, or someone that's living abroad wanting to give to a child. And then for that child to really get that feeling that they're getting understood and supported.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's basically.
I want everyone to hear that. You said some amazing things there. I just want to kind of grab them. That, you know, like, it's connection first and foremost in a disconnected world.
Yes.
You know, drop that in. I know it's easy to say, but it's a difference when we're doing it. Connection in a disconnected world, and then to be understood. To actually be understood. You know, a child lives in a world where it's difficult for them to be understood. You know, I've got a 6-year-old, and it is literally like one of those memes that is, did you ever, did you know, did you go, remember that thing that's like, it's round and it's purple, and you know, it was that day that we did, and you're like, what day, when? You know, and for them to be understood. So I really want everyone to get what Lynda's saying here, that this is priceless for the child to be able to really feel understood, and at the same time have something that creates that opening connection. So carry on, sorry.
No, thank you. But that's exactly it. It was really driven by connectivity rather than, you know, in a disconnected world that we lived in. And then also, you know, for me, reflecting to my childhood, I had lovely parents, but they were very emotionally disconnected. You know, if I ever tried to open up about how I felt, my dad would be like, oh look over there, that's a really nice coloured car, or, you know, he would really just deflect, and we suddenly would be talking about something on a very surface level. He was, you know, my lovely dear father, but he just was never, he felt very uncomfortable. And my mum had very complex mental health needs as well, so I sort of grew up really understanding the complexities of depression, manic depression, and, you know, I really understood that as a sort of, you know, essentially like a child, but I took the caring role, you know. So that was it. Everything from my past kind of came together, and it made complete sense, even though I couldn't make sense of it at the time. That was a strange thing. It's something that feels right, and you're going with the flow, but you're still your practical mind's trying to make sense of why you're still doing this, but it just felt very right. So it's impacted a lot of children. I get so much great feedback. you know, just saying that how it's really helped their child open up, that they were worried because, you know, their child was going upstairs to do homeschooling, switching the camera off, crawling back into bed at 11. They were tired, fatigued, you know, like this is the thing. This product isn't to help necessarily children that are openly depressed and have anxiety. We're talking subtle signs here, you know, the signs that can get completely missed.
Yeah.
The worrying first starts. You know, a friend of mine, her boy who's 8 was using the box, and he was just going back to bed after having 12 hours sleep, been up for 3 hours. That's not normal. It's not normal to be sleeping that much. And it's all of these things, and it's really helped educate parents to see the subtle signs, and also to use a language where it's really accepting for children to feel how they feel. This isn't about making children happy all the time. It's making them real, like making emotions feel, you know, accepted and understand, and that for them to understand what their emotions are. It's that emotional well-being piece, but it's not to allow that to turn into something that's out of control. We don't want a whole generation that's gone through this for the last 12 months to all be really depressed in the next
This is
6,
it.
7 years.
Yeah. A whole generation, that's what you're saying. This is a whole generation. As a mum with a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, I absolutely see this. And, you know, my 6-year-old has literally gone back into year 1 at the end of year 1, really, today. And she's kind of missed reception. She's kind of missed year 1. And so now it's like, oh, you need to do maths and English and science at year 2 level. And she's got no idea. And I can already see kind of what's going to occur later on down the line. And we've had the GCSEs kind of taken away, and now it's coursework. And if their mental health is not great and their emotional well-being is, you know, is deteriorating, coursework isn't going to be a priority. And it's certainly not going to be, you know, their best piece of work, their best effort.
Which then adds to the problem, because they're then seeing that they're not producing their best, they're struggling, they're falling behind, they're comparing themselves to others. And it's like a snowball. And I strongly believe that there should be investment in children's mental health. For the, you know, the government's throwing money at catch-up lessons. Great, okay, you know, reading, writing and everything, but you know what they've been through, actually they really need to have an initiative where they're really supported, and where mindfulness is part of the curriculum, you know.
And I think we've found lady. We've found our lady. And so you were picked up by Vanessa Feltz. You were on the lunchbox.
Let's pack lunchbox, because she does the small place marketplace, and it's about children entrepreneurs, so showing how children can get involved. I mean, that's actually another byproduct, my daughter getting involved. She now talks, I strongly believe as well that, you know, people should really feel, you know, and think about starting their own businesses. And, you know, especially girls as well, when they grow up to be women, there's more men that start up their own businesses, and women's mentality is normally on the side of not necessarily starting your own business, but working for someone else. And, you know, that has changed over the years. And I want to make sure that continues to change, that everyone can start up their own thing. Everyone can run successful, thriving businesses. So my daughter's now always setting up side businesses. Like, oh, here's my magnet collection. Can I do a webinar? She says to me the other day. It was like, webinar? she's totally like in the startup thing, you know, and that's amazing. And so we got a bit of press on the basis that my daughter was very involved in the business, but it just keeps coming, you know. There's so many different angles, you know. I've been on all of the kind of BBC radios, BBC Radio London, Shropshire, Surrey, and it was all based on children's mental health, and there was one quite interesting presenter who was, well, how have parents got the time to do this? How, you know, like, we can't all just sit there being all zen with our child. She obviously didn't really kind of understand. And I was like, well, it actually isn't about that. It's small things that you can do every day. You know, with my daughter, we do a very simple cloud visualization before she goes to bed. And that's just put all your busy thoughts on a cloud And in the morning, the ones that you want to take back and put them back in your head, but the ones that, you know, you're not that bothered about, just let it float off. Because I used to do it at the beginning. Yeah. And because at the beginning, I was always like, you know, right, put all your worries and concerns on the cloud. I used to obviously, you know, a bit more basic language, but she was like, but mummy, I might want to think about some of those things in the morning, you know, or there's some things that I don't want to float off in the cloud. So we adapted it for her, and she gets a lot of peace because she's like, right, I can just shut off now and go to sleep. And it's little things that you can do. And I think as a parent, if you can weave those things into their day, that's the thing, it's consistency. It's making sure that they're always aware of, you know, having very busy thoughts, having the thoughts that they should focus on and the thoughts that they shouldn't. And the thought sometimes is just a thought. They don't need to act on it. Let that one float away.
Pretty amazing. I really love that. And, you know, again, as a solo mum with 2 daughters that are going through all of this at the same time, you know, I want to reach out to any of the parents that are out there, any grandparents, you know, any aunts, uncles. You know, ultimately the children, you know, the children are our future, but they are. And you know, we were those children once. And if we were going through this now as children with the parents that we had, you know, we would need something like this too. You know, we've all been 6, we've all been 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, and we all know that it's just so difficult to comprehend what's going on around us, regardless of when it's complex. And, you know, you can't do that, you can't touch that, you can't be with your friends. No, you can't go and visit grandma and grandpa, you know, you can't do this. And it does become restricting. And I love that, you know, this is the premise of Wounds to Wisdom to Wealth. And this is so wise. This is, you know, literally taking a very fresh wound for all of us and looking at the wisdom that has literally been birthed through you, through your whole life to that very point, and then to gift it, not as wealth as we look at it in money, but this wealth of emotional balance and peace, this fulfillment and the cloud visualization. Oh my gosh, mothers out there, Kathy, yes, 13-year-old grandson, you know, Kathleen's 2 young boys, and I will definitely be using that with Bridget and Molly, you know, to take that cloud. I think it's fantastic because as they grow older, they're going to use those tools and give themselves peace as they grow. So thank you for that. That's brilliant. So what next? What, you know, what is next for Lynda Phoenix, but also for Happy Craft Box?
Yeah, so I think with the Happy Craft Box, it feels like it's evolving into, you know, craft boxes maybe for not just children, actually. You
Yeah.
know, it's it feels like now I'm going to concentrate on maybe some family products so that it's involving more members of the family, and perhaps some adult boxes. So it may not just be children. It just feels like it's naturally, you know, moving in that way. But it's just because it's really interesting. You know, as I said, the doors open, and there was like one morning that I woke up and I thought, well, do you know what? I really want to sort of work on some slightly more complex craft that takes even more focus and you're even more grounded. And of course, that eliminates some of the age groups because, you know,
Yeah.
like some very intricate cross stitching or something like that. And I spoke with a lady who was literally had contacted me about 6 months ago saying, could she do a design, you know, and would this be suitable for children? And at the time I was working a lot with younger children, so I connected with her and I said, you know, would you be able to, you know, do me a design for cross stitching? She goes, actually, I'm selling my business right now, because I need to focus on something else. And I bought her whole cross stitching business literally that day. And so I've now got, like, you know, embroidery circles with inspirational cross stitching quotes. So I'm now sort of sewing away trying to make the product. Actually, tell you what, I'll grab it and I'll show you.
I love this. I love that it's just like I reached out to somebody who had a cross-stitching business and I just bought it that day.
It's work in progress, but it's happy. I haven't done the Y and I haven't finished the rainbow yet. But
wow.
yeah, so I now have load of cross stitching kits that I'm now, you know, thinking it might be more aimed a little bit at the older children, but then it will come with gratitude diary and some gratitude and focus and all lovely juiciness that we offer. But yeah, so now Miss Cool DJ is sewing.
Oh my gosh, everyone's like, I love this, I love this, I love this. So drop in the chat. Would you love to be able to see? Would you love to be able to subscribe to this box? And who do you know that would love this box? Look at this. Yes, 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 yes. And Robin's mentioned this a few times. That would be fantastic for the older generations. You know, care homes are going through a lot of problems at the moment with the distancing. And, you know, again, like you said, these new avenues get to open up, because what works with one can work with everyone as long as it's tailored. And that's absolutely beautiful. Kathy loved the box for the family. Michelle saying, I was never engaged at school. Yeah, but she was very creative. So, okay, where do we go? Where do we go to subscribe? Where do we go to learn more?
Yeah, well, you can pop along to happycraftbox.com, and I also sell gift boxes. So you don't have, you know, if you're wanting to send a gift, you know, we get lots of gifts sent. And you know, the most amazing thing is I get to see all the little notes that everyone wants to put with their boxes. And
oh,
most amazing. I'll just share two little stories of where these boxes ended up. And one girl had spent 5 years in a sort of hospital environment with leukemia. At the point that she came out of hospital, lockdown kicked in. So she was then vulnerable and had to stay at home. And she'd never been to a play group. She'd never been anywhere. She'd never been to school, never been to nursery. She spent her entire life battling leukemia. And then when she was free, she was then vulnerable at home. And so her parents, you know, sent her this gift box. Another child had her dad was a paramedic and died of COVID. And a neighbour brought the child, and it's so amazing, like where these boxes go. So if you want to send a lovely mindful gift or subscribe to your child, go to happycraftbox.com and keep posted for some potential adult products if I finish sewing. And I get a lot of joy out of sewing. Blimey, I've been like in the zone, you know, doing this every evening. Like,
give us a picture. I want to put this up on our social media. Go on, give us a picture with your happy craft box. Yay! So everyone, today we're asking people to get really engaged today. I'm looking at the chat, I'm watching kind of like where the engagement is coming, and because I'm going to be offering a purpose, power and prosperity reading later on this afternoon live. And so if you are interested in that, we want to see your pictures all over social media. Tag Lynda. Well, what are your hashtags? What are your tags, Lynda, that we can tag you in?
So for Instagram, it's at the Happy Craft Box, and then just go to
the Happy Craft Box.
And then Happy Craft Box is just the name for Facebook page, so you can just find us.
Okay. So please take photographs of the screen and share that, and tag me and Lynda in it. What an incredible woven story. Isn't it beautiful how like we're finishing with this embroidery, and it feels like your whole life has been this tapestry with the music, the art, you know, the marketing and all the different things, all the blends, your own personal story with your parents and understanding that dynamic, and then bringing it right to the next generation with your daughter right there in that moment when COVID hit. And we get to be here a year later to see the success of your heart, and to be right at the forefront of just the beginning of the boom of where this could go and where your personal marketing business could go. And oh, it's so delicious. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So everybody light up the chat. Big claps for Lynda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What landed for you? Tell us what landed for you with Lynda. It would be really great. You're so inspiring. Fantastic story. This should be in the curriculum. Absolutely. Beautiful. Sending this out to my daughters. Fantastic. So much love. You have a beautiful heart, Lynda. Mwah. Have an amazing day, darling, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And